Today we have an account review slash coaching for Psychona, level 87, 2.7 million player power, who played the game before. We have the revival path going, but recently returned. They did purchase the revival path, which is awesome. Excellent value here. Elva's an awesome champion as well, but they were asking for some help specifically for clan boss, Hydra, hard mode dungeons. Maybe some different teams for arena other than go first. Go first teams are pretty simple. So to start off, let's get some idea of where this account's actually at. What kind of champions are we looking at? Well, if we expand the roster, we can see what we have going on. We have a pretty solid roster. Not nothing like crazy compared to some of the accounts I've been into. We have a lot of mollies. Like this account, big fan of mollies. I don't know if he is, but the account's definitely a big fan of getting mollies collected. So we have a lot of mollies, a lot of really good epic champions throughout, honestly, which is amazing for Faction Wars. So a lot of good epics worth investing in for Faction Wars. Not necessarily a rush on investing in those though. So as always, I got the snapshot in time of his account. So this is where he currently is. At the bottom there is the suggestions, but let's take a look at this first. So level 87, I'd say this is mid-game, basically. We don't have Arbiter yet. We're still working on Ramen 2 Marius. We don't have Lydia, so I think mid-game is a pretty safe place for this to be. So we'll put mid-game. Now, as far as dungeon times, Iron Twins is very important to progress in, but to be honest, it's not something I would rush into focusing on because it's something that's going to be easier when you get better gear for your champions. Sand Devil is not being progressed in at all currently, and that's a good thing, honestly, because Sand Devil is not a place you should go if your gear is not like predominantly 6-star quality. So with the other stuff, we have Dragon's Lair, Fire Knight, decent, one hard, but honestly, 25 is probably fine. Dragon's Lair 25, we could push into hard mode for Dragon. Ice Golem 25, Minotaur 15, and Spider's Den stage 20. I'm honestly kind of surprised to see Fire Knight being the only dungeons he pushed into hard mode, because Fire Knight is by far the hardest dungeon to push into hard mode content for. Spider is easy, Dragon is easy. Ice Golem is tricky, but it's still very similar to the regular Ice Golem. Fire Knight, it's a completely different monster, so good on him for actually pushing into Fire Knight hard. But I will be talking about Dragon today. We're actually going to be diving into that, because in your account, Psychona, I want you to focus on Faction Wars a lot. Like this should be very high in your priorities, is building out these Faction War presets and getting the teams and the champions built to actually start progressing in this and like getting to stage 20, 21, getting it cleared, working towards Lydia, because Faction Wars is a multi-area benefit. It's going to give you glyphs, which are huge. It's going to give you stuff for the Forge, forging perception gear specifically, which is one of the best 2-piece sets in the game. And it's going to give you Lydia. So we're getting 3 different area benefits, and one of them being perception, which is something you're going to use forever. So really dive into, really focus on doing Faction Wars. Now with Faction Wars, a little tip that I like to give is supports can be left at 50. Damage dealers typically need to be taken to 60. The reason for this is because damage dealers are doing damage, they're surviving, and they need to do well at surviving and do well at damage. And their stats are usually low at 50. So get them to 60 makes it a lot easier. Whereas supports, you just got to gear them for speed, HP, defense, possibly accuracy, and they're going to do pretty good. So supports left at 50, it's okay. Damage dealers, take them to 6-star, level 60. Ideally, they're being used in multiple areas anyways, and then you're going to be good to go to actually progress through the Faction War stages. You have a lot of champions, and I really think with some dedication of time, you could finish out Faction Wars. I mean, you have Stultus and Richoff, both of these incredible champions. He's already booked. So with Richoff, just like throw some good speed on him, throw crit rate on him, get him some good accuracy, and he's going to be a solid champion. He's already a 6-star. So then your Banner Lord's basically done so extremely easily. Your Lizardman faction has Krisk, so it should be super easy if it's not already finished, honestly. Lizardman is 39. So yeah, you got a ton of progression to be made in Faction Wars. Definitely jump in here and do that. Now, Revival quests, sometimes you get, okay, so I guess you've already used these other ones, the Faction War stuff. That doesn't really matter though. So as far as what's up next, let's take a look at this. So Arena, you're doing good there. Your Great Hall's doing well. We have the accuracy being filled out. Excellent work. I like accuracy, crit damage and resistance, something like that. But you're doing a very good breakdown here. Now, as far as the Arena goes, let's talk about some teams while we're here. While we're in here, let's talk about some teams, guys. So with Classic, you're doing great. Gold 5, 3v3. You just got back to the game, so you're slowly pushing back up. Makes sense. One-man defense for some easy farms. But if you throw a defense on, you can continue progressing pretty easily. Your defense here is a full defense, which something to consider. If you drop down a tier, you're getting the same amount of medals, but you are getting a little bit less of an area bonus. But if you throw in a one-man defense, you're going to get farmed down a lot, and you can actually find more enemy one-man defenses. So then you could farm medals easier. That's really the goal here. Like, you're not trying to push into plat, so this is the ultimate goal, is just farming medals pretty easily. Now, with this team, I wouldn't recommend using this setup, honestly. So you have your Arbiter boosting into Apothecary, who's doing another speed boost into Madame Ceres and then into Trunda. This team needs to be speed tuned. If your Arbiter was, say, 360 speed, your Apothecary would need to be like 300 speed, and then your Madame Ceres would need to be like 280 speed, and your Trunda would need to be like 260 plus. Instead, what I want you to do is come in here, drop Apothecary out, you don't need him, throw in your Prince Kymar. Prince Kymar is going to be built to be speed tuned with the Arbiter, so get him like 280 if you could. Have him open with this ability, and then he's going to strip. Madame Ceres is going to strip and not do any hit, so it's not going to wake anybody up. And then Trunda is going to come in like a bad dream, wake them up, and ruin their day. So that's going to be a very simple setup like that. Just go ahead and blow everything up with Trunda. Kymar's going to reset, and there we go. GG's. So that's going to be an excellent go first team setup for you. Now, he mentioned having a go second team setup. So with go second teams, there's a few different approaches I like to take. I like either a pseudo go second team or pseudo go first team. Essentially what that is a team where we bring a big significant threat like a Yumiko, a Warlord, an Armand, a champion who's going to cut in, can manipulate Turn Meter, put them in Stone Skin. Now the enemy can't go after you because if they go slow, they're going to get locked out or messed up. But if they go first, well, you have a good chance of cutting in if they're not perfectly speed tuned. Unfortunately, you don't really have a champion who falls into that category. So for a go second team for you, it's going to be more like the OG setups, which is going to be very reliant on having Stone Skin gear, which ties into actually pushing Hydra. So for a go second setup, I would be looking for champions like Krisk, put him up closer in the front of the team order, because what's going to happen is, say a Trunda nuked him, then if he's in this spot, then he's going to place the decreased attack on her, and the decreased attack is going to be applied to her hit for the hit on Cardiel, on Visix, and on Dracomorph. Whereas if Krisk was in the very back, then the hits would only apply, there would be no decreased attack even matter. The Trunda would still get decreased attack, but her damage on Cardiel, Visix, and Draco would have been calculated with her regular attack boost, or if she had increased attack, whatever it may be. So with this team, let's look at Krisk. You could go, if you want to do a go second team, you could have a Kymar in here. You could drop the Kymar from the speed team and put him in this team, possibly. Or better yet, you can go UDK. We're going to want to find a big nuker who can be behind the UDK and do very well. I guess since you came back, you can't use the code Monkey King, which was a free Sun Wukong, which is a huge champion. Super sweet to have. You honestly don't have like a ton of amazing options for go second stuff. You have some decent ones like you have Mountain King. What am I saying? You have Mountain King and Stoutus. These two are very solid. If we have a champion who could give us increased defense, we can be in a pretty good spot here, honestly. Buffs, increased defense. We have Krisk, but it's just to himself. He's a little selfish with that. Stoutus gives himself increased defense, actually. What champion do we have that could res? So, but actually, no. Effects, positive effects, revive. Arbiter is the only res champion we have, really. We have a Molly, who's a pretty good champion, honestly. Ursula, Silva Drakes. So with your team, what you may even want to consider is just having like a Cardiel in here. A Cardiel plus Mountain King. Cardiel is going to do the ally attack. Mountain King has a big A1 ability. Now this is like a team that, if you really want to go second team, this is what you want. This is what you could use. Honestly, what you could also do is have Arbiter, Cardiel, Skullcrown, Sinesha. This is a blender team. So you could use this as your go first team. And your go second team could be something more like that pseudo go second team like I was talking about. Now we have Kymar in the lead. He's going to strip everybody. If we have a decreased defense champion, that'd be incredible. Or a Baron could just smack really hard. We could do a decreased defense and weakened champion with the Dracomorph. Something like this could work out. Because now you have the Kymar stripping. He's pretty fast. He's not going to be going first necessarily. But if they're not speed tuned, he will cut in and go first. Or he could just go before those tanky teams. He strips everybody. Then Draco places his debuffs. And Stoutus goes in for the nuke. You don't have a ton of champions right now to like be really investing yourself into 3v3, honestly. You have some champs, you make stuff work, but it's really just going to be like just mashed together, not fully optimal, but stuff that could work. Similar thing with Mighty Uko. A lot of this is going to revolve around having stone skin gear, which, since you're pretty new back, I don't think you have much stone skin. You haven't been doing Hydra, so you're really limited on stone skin. Stone skin is going to make Go Second teams so much more possible. Another example could be something like Mighty Uko plus a UDK. Mithrala would be huge, but she's needed from, you get her from doing Hydra. You could throw in a Krisk here. So we do this, for example, we got the strip, and now we go Stoutus. So now you have a res champion. You have a Krisk. He can actually do some decent damage. Have a provoke as well. And then we have UDK protecting us. And then Stoutus doing a nuke. It's definitely a viable option as well. So you have a lot of options. There's nothing I would say like, you don't have a damage dealer who could carry you as a Go Second, in my opinion. Those are typically like Rhodos. Mountain King is a good one. It's just getting him to do enough damage and in solid enough gear where it actually makes sense. So with this Mountain King, when it comes to building him, you'd want to come in here and get your Savage gear brought up. You have some flat stats here that could just be sold, like flat stat gloves, flat stat boots, flat main stat that is. Just, you're not going to use those. You're looking for crit damage gloves, HP percentage chest plate, speed boots, and then some crit rate, crit damage, speed on the top row pieces to finish it out. Ideally 6-star pieces. Like, you have some really good potential gear. Very solid gear. Granted, where your account's at currently, this goes for a lot of players. 3v3 is important. However, it's not what I would prioritize first and foremost. First and foremost, I would work on getting your dungeons progressed to a point where you can get better gear. Work on getting your Doom Tower progressed where you can get better gear. Progress these other areas to get you better gear, so that then you can equip your champions who are going to do better in 3v3 and those different areas with this better gear. But before I go on too much of a tangent there and diving into that, I want to talk about the Clan Boss. Clan Boss is extremely important. Now, it's actually one of the first things I recommend him doing, building out his Ultra Nightmare and below Clan Boss. So Ultra Nightmare, Nightmare, Brutal, Hard, all that kind of stuff. So with Clan Boss, you have a very doable setup, which is, I built it at the bottom for you, double Maneater, Deacon, Painkeeper. You could do Dracomorph or Brachus. Either one's going to work out great, but you have a lot of options. You just got to get them booked, got to get them masteried, got to get them taking a 6-star, and you got to get them speed tuned. Once you do that, you'll have a full auto team. I believe it's team's full auto. It should be full auto. A full auto team that you can use to do 1 key Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss. Easy stuff. Eventually 1 key. At first, it's probably going to be 2 key, but either way, it's going to be full auto. That's really what we're looking for. If you ever get lost on team builds, you can come in here, go to Clan Boss, Ultra Nightmare. The team build I put in there is actually from one of the teams in here anyways. We can go exclude manual teams. We don't want none of that manual nonsense. And you can see this team at the very top should be that Deacon and Brachus team. 58 million damage. It's 2 key. Eventually, you get a Seeker. Boom. You got a Bat Eater team, Dracomorph, 1 key everything except for Force Affinity most of the time. So excellent options there. If you've never used the Hell Hades Optimizer, I highly recommend downloading it because you can get a ton of good ideas. Now, to be fair, you may not have the gear to pull off these ideas, but there are a lot of good ideas. You have 2 Stoutuses, okay? Like, this is a good team, but this has Stone Skin gear. So you don't have that yet. You can't even do that team. I'm going to talk about Dragon and how you can approach that in just a minute, though. But Clan Boss, that's going to be your setup. Now, with that team, you can go to the Deadwood Jedi's website, and you can see what the speed setups are needed for that team. Get it put in. That's going to be the number one thing to do. So when you get your count back, go do that. It's the number one thing to focus on. And then building out faction war champions as you go. Don't dedicate too much to them, but keep in mind the support versus damage dealer thing I was talking about. Using your missions as guides in general, very, very important. Always make sure you're staying up to date on your missions if you can. The Marius missions, in my opinion, are more important, but since you're not quite to this level of stuff, I wouldn't stress about it too much. Do the Ramen 2 ones. This is more so where you're at. So try to progress in these. It's going to help you get Ramen 2. It's going to keep you on track. It's going to be very helpful for you in general. Now, another thing that you asked for help for, we have Clan Boss done. We have Arena, talked about. Hydra and hard mode dungeons. Let's talk about hard mode dungeons and then Hydra, because these are going to kind of tie in together. So with hard mode dungeons, I would focus on Dragon, Ice Golem, Spider. Mainly Dragon, Spider. Fire Knight's just too hard to do on very high levels of hard mode dungeons. Ice Golem is not necessarily super difficult, but it is still fairly difficult. So right now, focus on Dragon. Dragon is relatively simple because what Dragon is it's very similar to the regular Dragon, just using poisons, HP burn, War Master, stuff like that to actually kill a dragon. So what you want to do here is basically set up a team where Draco's going to carry it. So a team like, you could even throw in Krisk if you wanted, but you could go, what is the team you had here before? You had Cardiel. This team actually should work fine, right? You have Krisk, Though I would put Krisk in a different spot. I would do Krisk, Draco. If we had a Ornn, a Venomage, something like that, it would be very good. Even more poisons popping off. Poisons are the way to go for Dragon. Like, they're just by far the best thing to do to get it down quick. So poisons, we have Richoff. I forgot about him. Richoff the Bold, incredible champion. We have King Galkabar. Places poison for 2 turns on each enemy for every buff removed. He has some heals on him, so he's a potential option as well. You have Tomb Lord, which is a great champion for Fire Knight stuff. He could be worth building up for this Dragon team. You have Nethril, who's also very solid. Doesn't have as crazy poisons, but he does have this AoE stun, which is really good. And you have Richoff. So just load up a bunch of poisoners, load up some wave control. Don't want to decrease their turn meter because that's going to cause the poisons to not activate as frequently. So just load it up with some poisons, load it up with some wave control, and you're going to be pretty solid. Honestly, Nethril could be amazing here. He's a good champion. So we got Cardiel, all this stuff, and then let's throw in, could do Richoff. So in this team, you're looking at some AoE poisons on everybody. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Okay, no. What's okay? No. Each hit places 5% poison on all enemies for 2 turns. So he's shooting one enemy, placing poisons on everybody. So boom, you get 3 poisons instantly. Draco is doing a poison 4 times at random. AoE, decrease defense and weaken. And then Nethril is doing some extra poisons plus the stun and decreased speed. So you have several poisons going off. Krisk with the provoke, Krisk with the decreased speed. A lot of beneficial stuff going off. Get through the waves, get to the dragon, load up the poisons on the dragon, and you're going to clear it pretty easily. And the good thing about this team is Cardiel, very viable Hydra champion. Cardiel, also great for Fire Knight. Krisk, great for Hydra, very solid and viable in Ice Golem. Obviously good in Dragon. Draco, good for Clan Boss, good for, not really good for Hydra necessarily. The decreased defense and weaken could be viable, but nothing much past that. So he's a good champion in other areas. We could use him on normal Ice Golem, but hard mode Ice Golem doesn't get affected by poisons, so we're not going to use him there. Nethril and Richoff, these are all level 60 already. You need these for your faction wars, so there's no reason to not build them to push you up some higher dragon stages. Try to get to stage 6 if you can. If you can get past that, get to stage 10 hard. But building these champions isn't going to be very difficult. What you're going to want to look out for is, do they have anything that requires them to land a crit? No. So we don't need a crit. Crits are good to have, you can get it, but the main thing with Richoff is to get his speed good, get his accuracy good, make sure he survives. So 200 plus speed, 225 plus accuracy, and you're gonna be all right, basically. Now, if you are curious about how much accuracy is required, what you can do is you can come over here to the HH Stages tool, the Hell Hades, let me see if I can find it, right here, the Hell Hades Stages tool, and you can see what accuracy level is required for what dungeon you're doing. So Fire Knight stage, actually let's do Dragon for the context here. Stage 10 hard Dragon, you can see the Dragon itself requires an accuracy of 345. So you're gonna need more accuracy on that stage. Now, if you do Dragon's Lair stage 1, you're gonna need a lot less accuracy. You need 225. So do the stage you're looking for, build your champions to that level, and just farm that. Stage 1 hard is better than stage 21 plus normal, just because you're gonna get the chance of mythical and it costs the same amount of energy anyways. So try to do as high as you can on hard, but if you can't go crazy high, don't stress about it too much. Getting something is better than nothing. Now, the reason why I'm saying for you to do Dragon, when I typically don't recommend players do it at all, is because you don't have Faction Wars finished. You still need speed sets, lifesteal possibly, definitely accessory, accuracy, accessory. What the heck am I talking about there? So you still need all these sets. So Dragon is still very valuable for you. But once you do Faction Wars and get it finished, you don't need Dragon anymore. You only do it on the 3x speed events. So right now, it's going to be mainly Dragon, Spider, normal Fire Knight is a great idea, and then Ice Golem. Ice Golem's a little bit lower on the list right now, simply because Ice Golem is good when you're pushing into high levels of Hydra. But before you get into high levels of Hydra, Ice Golem's Cursed Provoke is a little bit more tricky to work in. You can still do it, but it takes a lot of farming to actually get sets that are viable enough. Now, you could do Ice Golem, it's not going to hurt you, but I would say Dragon's going to be the most important, Spider for some speed gear, and then Fire Knight. Now, if you do a decent amount of Dragon, you're farming it pretty regularly, then you can switch to something else. But right now, your setups are looking for the stats in general for these champions, and then you're going to move into sets with the stats as well. We want to get your damage dealers into some good damage dealing sets as soon as possible. But in order to get into Fire Knight at a higher stage, we're going to need a little bit higher base level of gear. Now, another thing that I mentioned on this first page is to purchase all the Forge Passes. I know you spend money. You already mentioned you did. So whenever the Forge Passes pop up, it may not have been the game whenever you were here previously, but the Forge Passes are more than worth it. They're so extremely valuable. So any Forge Pass that comes up, just get it, at least the first time. You don't have to continue buying them, but at least the first time, it's going to give you a lot of high quality stuff. Also, since I looked at the Forge just now, go to Curse City. Make sure to do Curse City. You're doing normal, great. Try to do hard. It's not super difficult, at least this first area right there. So try to do that if you can. And now I mentioned, I didn't mention Doom Tower on here, but Doom Tower is super important. So looking at your avatars, you haven't cleared all of Doom Tower. I would definitely work on doing that as well. I don't want to give you too many things to focus on. I can't really just say, hey, focus on everything in the game. So I think Clan Boss, Faction Wars, and farming gear is going to be plenty for a while. So that's a dragon example. Let me give you an example of a spider team though. So when it comes to your spider, definitely you want to push up on the stage 21 to 25 and then get into hard mode. Hard mode is a lot easier than these other stages, but for 21 plus, you really want to focus more on HP burn, freezes of the spiderlings, and just burning them. You have Tyrant who can do burns, but I guess the ideal situation would be like Mordecai plus a Chalk. It's a pretty simple team setup, very easy just to run through the teams. Actually, you have it. You have Akoth, amazing champion for this, epic champion. You can book him up, no problem. And then you have a Chalk who freezes the spiders. So you actually already have a team there. It's a very easy setup. Some stages can be bad affinity though, but you can break into hard mode. Once you get into hard mode, it becomes much easier. You can use Royal Guard, you can use Cold Hearts, because if you kill the little spiders, it's going to deal damage to the big spider. You can't decrease the turn meter, but you can do some significant damage there. If you have Hex, it becomes a lot easier as well. So hard mode, if you can get there, is much easier, but honestly, if you're just doing stage 20, that's okay. Stage 20 is the most efficient stage. You're not getting the best rewards, but it is pretty efficient. But for stage 21 to 25, Akoth plus a Chalk is an excellent combo, honestly. That's Spider. Now for Ice Golem, it's really just, honestly, Akoth can do great here as well. He can even do great on hard mode, Ice Golem. So get Akoth to the boss, burn the boss, have no War Master, you're going to be good to go. So Akoth may actually be a champion I'm going to jot down for you to get to 6 stars soon. So 6-star options would be Akoth. Super good champion. Akoth, future 6-star. Now, with this gear section, actually, before we do the gear section, let's look at Fire Knight. Fire Knight is one that if you're doing hard mode, stick with doing whatever stage you can. This is great. If you can go a little bit higher, go for it. But if not, don't stress it too much. Getting Cardiel in here could be really good. They'll break the shield a little bit quicker. Your Seer, I got a feeling she's not doing... Okay, this is stage 20. Yeah, that makes sense. So if you can do hard mode, do it. If not, stage 20 is not a huge issue. You're just going to be selling more gear than you would be from hard mode, basically. But Fire Knight's going to be something that is going to come very soon, but hard mode is going to be easier once you get better gear for your champions, essentially. But on hard mode Fire Knight, freezes work great. Past stage 6. Before stage 6, you can kind of just brute force it. Bring a Cardiel in, bring some big max HP hitters, bring a decreased speed, and bring some decent survivability for your team, and you're going to be okay most of the time. That Cardiel is a big help having the ally attack. Plus, have a Cold Heart in there. She brings that multi-hitter. Very good setup there. So now let's move over to your gear. So your gear currently is in a spot that could definitely be improved. You have 745 pieces, but a lot of 5-star. I want to get this switched over completely and then basically eliminate all the 5-star, honestly. But since you are still working on Faction Wars, it's not an immediate rush because we want to get that done first. So finish Faction Wars and then go hard getting rid of the 5-star stuff. Same thing with accessories, but accessories are even a little bit more strict because you should be doing tons of Spider and you really shouldn't need to keep any 5-star stuff. But you do need to do more Spider because you don't really have that much at all. We need plenty of banners for the speed, building... Faction War champions, we really want the 6 stars we have to be built as well as possible. So we have some hard mode dungeon stuff talked about. We have some arena, clan boss, all that kind of stuff. Let's look at Hydra. So with your current champion pool, we can go into the Hellhaze optimizer again and get some ideas. Now, I don't recommend using this as a, hey, these are the teams that are doing good. I need to copy paste this team and I'm going to do good, because you probably won't. The reason for that is that these teams may have a lot better gear than you. Granted, this team's not very good. Let's go to hard. Hard would be a decent place to start. Honestly, not a single. Okay, this team has Krisk, 35 million damage. Let's exclude manual just for full auto. These teams are not bad, but maybe you don't have the ability to make your champion super fast. These seem pretty reasonable builds, honestly, though. But maybe some of them you don't have the capabilities of doing so, which is okay. You need to come in here and figure out why the team works or try to understand it and then build a team around that. So this team, actually, the optimizer, basically, it's showing people who have the champions you have or similar champions and what teams they built based on those champions. So none of these teams are very good, honestly. On Brutal, you have the abilities to go to Brutal, I'm pretty sure, but none of these teams look very good. Let's take a look at Hydra. For the debuffs, the ones you really want to have is Hex, decrease speed, provoke, decrease defense, weaken is pretty important, but it's not so much a must-have, decrease attack, and block buffs. These ones on the right are must-haves. Weaken is a pretty significant one, but you don't have to have it, so I'll mark it off the list right now. So these ones you definitely want to have. And then we have, let's see, Leech, HP burn, and weaken. These ones are very helpful, but you don't have to have those. For buffs, you want to have increased speed. You need to have a way of dealing with the Head of Torment, which could be Perfect Veil, or it could be Inquisitor Shemel. There's some other buffs that are nice to have. Increased defense, or strengthen. We have increased attack. These are all nice to have depending on the damage that you bring. So let's build a team kind of based on that. First up, we have Cardiel. He brings block debuffs, but if you bring block debuffs, you have to have a champion who can be a mischief tank. If not, you're going to get block debuffs stolen, it's spread, and it's going to be a bad day for you. So we're going to put Cardiel and Krisk. Krisk can be an excellent mischief tank. So now we have a champion with an A1, AoE decrease speed, an ally protection, continuous heal, and a provoke. So we're already getting a chunk of the stuff that I'm looking for just in those two champions. Cardiel with the ally attack, very good because it's going to be more A1 abilities from Krisk. So with the debuffs, I want to see who brings block buffs in your account. You have a Mighty Uko plus King Galkabar. Now Galkabar places the block buffs and a poison, continuous heal, and a shield. Not a bad champion, but honestly, I think I would rather bring a Mighty Uko. Mighty Uko is going to strip. He's going to do a decrease attack on his A1 ability. He's going to bring a res as well. You could turn that off, or you just leave it on. Let him place increased speed on everybody. So we need some damage dealers here. You don't have like a ton of, well, you have Trunda, who's an amazing Hydra damage dealer, but let's look at Geomancer. Geomancer is a champion who you can't run him if you have other HP burn champions in the team, but he works fantastic by himself. So we have Geomancer in here. Some other champions you could use are Royal Guard. If you're using Royal Guard and Spider on hard mode, well, it's going to be an excellent time to put him into this team as well. So we have Royal Guard. We have increased speed. We have decreased speed. We have block buffs, kind of. Uko has a little bit of tricky stuff with his every now and then, but it's a great option. We have everything except for an answer for the Head of Torment. So we have two options. We could do Tatura. Tatura is going to bring a increased defense on everybody, plus the Perfect Veil. But Tatura is not booked. So you also have Inquisitor Shemel. Inquisitor Shemel is going to cleanse, boost the leader of the turn meter. Sorry, the turn meter of the leader, giving them more turns, and now you have a pretty solid Hydra setup. You're going to have to make sure that Geomancer spreads his HP burns correctly. Set this as number one priority. You may have to change his build a little bit and get him to be much faster, better accuracy. Actually, right now it's not too bad. Royal Guard, get him to be fast. Get him to be like 225 plus. He's going to do really well for you. Inquisitor Shemel, get him to be pretty fast as well. Krisk, Cardiel. So right now, you don't have a ton of protective debuffs, unfortunately. You don't have any increased defense, nothing like that. But you have an ally protection from Krisk, which should add a lot of survivability. Cardiel with the Revival and Death, plus the heals from his A1, the ally attack. So we have some sustainable champions. Geo is going to make you take less damage from targets under HP burn. So good sustainability there. Overall, this team should do well. If for some reason it doesn't do well for you, these two champions have War Master. It's going to be great for free and champions. If you had to, you could always drop Royal Guard or even drop the Geomancer and throw in somebody else. That should be okay. So this team should one key hard, at least for you. So then you'd be looking for a team for normal. So normal, we're going to take a very similar approach. So with this, what we're going to do is we're going to try to see, okay, what champions bring decreased speed that we have? We have Visix. Visix also brings a provoke. Now, you can't see these champions, unfortunately, but just trust me here. So Visix brings a provoke. So we're going to put this We're going to put her in the second spot because we want a different champion being boosted by Shamel. If we have another Shamel in the account, which I don't actually know if we do. Let's see. Shamel. Nope. No other Shamel, unfortunately. So right now, what you're looking for is a champion with Perfect Veil, basically. Rector Drath and Tatura are both very solid options. Let's see who we got. Got both of them. Rector Drath is going to bring some heals, also easier to book. Tatura is going to bring increased defense, not as easy to book. So in this case, you may have to go Rector Drath, but it's really up to you. I don't think you'll be using Tatura that much outside of this, so I'd probably just say, okay, Rector Drath, she's coming in here. I can invest the epic books into her. She's going to do amazing for her faction and faction wars, so we'll go ahead and bring her in. This is another important tip, is the champion that you're going to be using in faction wars, get them in here as well. So now we have no worries about the leader. Whoever's here is not going to get turn meter boosted, nothing like that. We have Coronar. Now, Coronar brings a provoke as well. He brings an AoE attack, also decreased attack and decreased defense. So he's a great champion, but he's not booked. So I don't want to put this to be super legendary heavy because you just don't have that many legendary books to go around. Stag Knight, he could be used on normal. No problem. He has a decreased defense, decreased attack AoE, low cooldowns, plus a decreased speed. But let's see what else we have for the decreased speed. So debuffs, decreased speed. Very important debuff to have. We want an AoE decreased speed ideally. So Nethril, he's a champion who we're already using in some content. AoE decreased speed, plus some poisons, which we don't really care about, honestly. So he doesn't bring the best of everything, but he does have that decreased speed we're looking for. Though actually Visix brings a decreased speed as well. Did I already say that? Provoke a decreased speed? Either way, fantastic. So we'll leave Visix in there. We need an increased speed as well. So buffs, increased speed. We have Silva Drakes, which she brings. I don't really like what she brings, honestly. I don't think she brings enough for us to justify bringing her, to be fair. We have Haikatoon. This is one of those times where it may be worth swapping one of the champions out of the top team and throwing them in this bottom one. Who else do we have that brings block debuffs? Honestly, it may be one of those situations where Galkabar has to come in. Galkabar is good. I mean, he has a shield and a heal. And he'd do very well. So instead on this team, we could drop him. Then we lose a res champion if we do that. But we have a lot of heals, plus a nice shield every now and then. What's his shield percent like based off of? Value is equal to 25% of this champion's max HP. So get him good HP. He should do pretty well. He's already booked as well. So you have some more good sustainability there. You have pretty good protection already. You could change some champions up, but now you could throw in Mighty Uko in this team. This is a arena aura, but it should be fine here. So let's throw in Mighty Uko. So now we have block buffs. We need a decreased defense champion, as well as some damage. Let's go decreased defense. You could go Dracomorph here. You could do Stag Knight as well, honestly. With this one's again a little bit tricky now because I want to make sure you have a good team here. And it's one of the things that I'd probably test and then swap around. But Stag Knight, we don't really need him necessarily because we already have decreased attack covered, but it's not going to hurt having extra decreased attack. And Stag Knight can do some decent damage. Plus, he can be put in curse set for some AoE curse being placed possibly. So from there, we want some more damage for sure. And you have Rhonda, right? Rhonda joins in on attacks, and she can actually do pretty decent. So we got Trunda. Actually, let's just use Trunda. We just need an increased attack champion now, which is Arbiter. There we go. It's a decent setup. We have decreased speed, increased speed, decreased defense, block buffs, increased speed, or increased attack-based damage dealer. We have a Veil answer, provoke. We just need some curse sets put on. We have Hex as well. So there's two teams for Hydra that obviously need to be built correctly to actually function correctly, but just theory crafting, those should work very well. You can at least see the process when it comes to actually building out these Hydra clan boss teams. So now, what it's going to come down to is building these champions correctly. I'm going to leave you with a breakdown of what I recommend as far as the stats. Supports 225 plus speed, damage dealers 200-ish speed. So when we're looking at your champion builds, your Kymar obviously is missing a piece, so you not built him or you change up his build or something. But Chris, let's see what's going on here. We have a little bit low HP. Defense is pretty high. A little bit slow, good accuracy. What I would like to see is more HP. Defense could be like 4,000. 225, 250 plus speed. But 225, let's say, more reasonable for your account. Accuracy, 345. Resistance, say 450. If we could possibly get that to be a mischief tank, that'd be incredible. Not super difficult to get, but you would need to have a resistance banner or resistance chest plate. You need some good accessories, which is going to come from that spider farming. And then we want the masteries done. Honestly, if you can't get it with War Master, just go into the resistance mastery and pick it up there, because having a mischief tank and Krisk is super important. Krisk mischief tanks based on, or anybody mischief tanks based on who has the most buffs. So since Krisk places continuous heals on himself, he's going to have the most buffs. And then as far as your Cardiel, his build's pretty good. Good speed, good survivability. You could go for some crit rate if you can, but it doesn't really matter, honestly. Like, he hits pretty hard, but if you can't make it happen, you can't make it happen. But good job on the books. Trunda is a damage dealer. She's in Cruel. Savage would be better, but her stats. We need to get this fixed. So the crit rate's over cap because she has crit rate gloves. I can almost guarantee it. Attack percentage chest plate. You could probably get her into some actual crit damage gloves and make her hit so much harder. Get this Savage gear leveled up, start investing in this, start building up your Savage gear, because you have a lot of potentially good stuff here. You just haven't rolled up yet. So getting this stuff rolled up is going to be super important. Now, when it comes to what you should keep and what you shouldn't, it's like a whole different ball game. But I do have like a loose breakdown here. So if a piece doesn't have crit rate, speed, or accuracy, whether it's the main stat or a substat, the chances of keeping it pretty daggone low, honestly. So not always, but a lot of times that's what you're looking for. Like this piece, we have crit rate and attack percentage. It's a great Trunda piece. It's not so great now, but it's still okay. So you want to come in here and try to get some better gear on your damage dealers especially. So crit damage. We're going to see if we got anything with crit rate on it as well. We have something in Immortal. 6-star be the best. Don't really see anything off the top. But what you could also do is just come over here to the Hellhaze Optimizer and build it like this. Now, since you don't have a lot of stuff leveled up, it's not going to give you the best results, but you can still see, okay, I want a champion with 200 plus speed, and I want this Trunda to hit as hard as possible, basically. This is going to show your gear based on including equipped artifacts, and we have 242 crit damage. Like, this is much better, but it's breaking a lot of the other champions. So what I recommend in this case is coming in here and look at your various different areas. Okay, we have Arena, we have Dungeons, Faction Wars, Clan Boss, Hydra, Doom Tower. What champion, what teams are you going to build for these? So for the Dragon team, do you see any similarities across the champions? So for example, in this team right here, we have Cardiel being used in a lot of different areas, in Hydra and Dragon. He deserves some really high quality gear because he's being used at a high level in a lot of different areas. He's also maybe used in the arena for a blender team with Skullcrown and Sinesha, so making him fast, very important. Krisk is used in a lot of areas. He deserves really good gear. Draco, similar situation there possibly. So look at these champions. Look at your, maybe you have a damage dealer like, okay, Trunda's good. She's probably your best damage dealer. Maybe Skullcrown Sinesha, maybe one of these two. Maybe you make them have your best gear. But personally, I'm of the opinion that it's better to have Trunda or your one damage dealer with your best gear than to have a bunch of gear spread all over the place. Now, you do have Manaya, so that does open up some stuff with Coronar, but to be honest, you don't have either one of them booked probably. So I wouldn't even stress about that too much, honestly. I just wouldn't even worry about that. Personally, what I like to do, I like to have my damage dealer I use the most with the best gear, and then like the second best damage dealer with the second best gear. Right now, you have it kind of split where you could have a Trunda with 5,600 attack, 242 crit damage, and Savage plus Cruel. It's a pretty good looking Trunda. Right now, instead, you have a 218 Trunda, pretty low crit damage with Savage alone, right? No, not even Savage, just Cruel. So something worth considering there is consolidating your gear to get like a few very good builds. With Cold Heart, you can rebuild it. Honestly, I would be even like, hey, go for a faster Trunda. You're going to do better in Hydra with this. You're going to be able to get normal done with her. I mean, this is a really solid Trunda build as well. We have Savage plus a broken set. More defense ignore than before. We have a defense banner on her, which goes to show we need some more attacks. We need some more banners. We need some more farming from Spider for sure. So attack banner with some speed would be sweet. This needs to be rolled. It's not even being calculated because it's not been rolled yet. Triple roll attack percentage, boom. This could be swapped over to her. Good chunk of attack, possibly. But basically come in here, get your champions, kind of consolidate the gear, find out what champions you want to use in the most areas, put the best gear on those champions, and the ones that you're not using that much, just let them fall to the wayside for a little while. They'll get some good gear eventually, or just gear them as if they're a faction war champion. Gear them to make sense, but don't try to gear them with your best stuff. Don't try to make 3 best damage dealers, when instead you could just make 1 best, 1 second best, and 1 third best. Now, that goes for like attack champions. Defense champions may be a little different because you have different defense percentage chest plates. All the gloves are going to be shared and all the top row pieces are going to be shared, but the chest plates and possibly the boots may not be shared. So I want to go ahead and get this wrapped up because we're in here for a little while, 43 minutes, so longer than I expected, honestly. But hopefully this gives you enough information to run with to get you some really good progression and put you in a direction that coming back from that break, you can jump back in and be very solid and get some good progression going. So thank you very much, Psychona, for reaching out to me to do this takeover. I very much appreciate it. If you have any questions whatsoever, don't forget, message me on Discord. More than happy to answer them. If anybody watching this video would like to get an account takeover done for you, 3v3 takeover, Hydra takeover, whatever it may be, just click the link down below, guys. I'll get you set up. And if not, no worries. Enjoy these videos. Let me know which ones you'd like to see. If there's any specific account area you'd like to see, let me know that as well, because I do quite a bit of these takeovers, so I can do some more videos on a specific area if you would like to see it. But guys, I want to say love and appreciate all of you. Thank you again, and I'll catch you in the next one.